Okay, so this spread, I'm gonna do one more for the day. This is actually from the Mystical Dream Tarot. Um, I need to start doing these in my room more so there's better lighting. But yes, this is from the Mystical Dream Tarot. And the spread is called, it is the Dream of Hidden Treasures spread. I don't do it exactly. Well, I mean, I do, but I like to switch things up. So instead of using only the major arcana, I still choose 9 cards, but instead of starting with the 1 card, which is in the middle, I start with 2. So I go top row 2, 3, then 4, 5, then 6, 7 bottom, then 8, 9, and then obviously 1 that I left out is in the middle, and that is the one I will do at the last. So the last card, number 1, would be what is my most powerful gift. So I will end with what is my most powerful gift, and you could see that as your own, but hopefully you'll buy your own tarot and do your own readings as well, because that's what I hope to inspire. But the first card, where is my vulnerability? So where am I most vulnerable in my life? So grab the 2, which is right here. And we have, now this is where it gets even more interesting, because I don't know if I mentioned this in my intro videos, but in this deck we are going to be calling, okay, if you are familiar with the major and minor arcanas at all, you'll probably know where I'm getting at here. Okay, so the Spirit. Okay, so we have the Spirit of Wands, and the Spirit of Wands will be the same as the Knight of Wands. I know, interesting. Won't confuse you. Spirit of Wands and is the Knight of Wands in traditional tarot. It's just called the Spirit of Wands. So for 2, where is my most vulnerability? Wow, that is horrible. I hope that's at least decent. If not, I'll redo it, but I just want to do this. So my most vulnerability is Spirit of Wands. So the good thing about this book, and I also have a general reading book, is I like to read the general meanings and then use my own intuition from there. So that's how I do this. So we'll go to Spirit of Wands. Spirit of Wands. This isn't how I do it all the time, guys. I'm just trying to give you an example if you're starting out with this deck or any deck. But I do this way quite often, and sometimes I take a picture of a reading and I look at it for days. So we go to Spirit of Wands. So the general interpretation in her book for this deck is this card signifies a happy person. It says woman, but I'm gonna say happy person. But we're gonna say woman is in the feminine. We're not thinking gender here, okay? We're thinking motherly, feminine aspect, which we all have a masculine and feminine aspect, I believe. So it signifies a happy woman, a loving wife and mother who gives freely and embraces sacrifice for the good of others. So someone who is willing to sacrifice for others, family, friends, even strangers if needed. She is well connected to her intuitive knowing, so your inner knowing. In other words, not just reading from this, your intuition will take course as well. Even if you read this, if you look at the card, you will likely feel something that wasn't anywhere you could find. It may relate to someone else, but they may have seen it in, the Lady of Wands. They might have seen it in the Moon. It's about how you feel as well, connect to what the meanings are in the deck that you're using. She is well connected to her intuitive knowing, so that's what I said. Advancement, growth, news, and ambition. A couple lines here. In tune with inner wisdom, voice of the unconscious, which rises from the purity of the clear crystal of truth. So it's a trust and intuition. In other words, think of that as a trust in your gut. If you ever had that gut feeling where there's something, most people always think the gut feeling when something's wrong. But that's just because that's where we focus our gut feeling on. We have gut feelings that are good as well. But this is just about very intuitive voice inside of us that's telling us to not hold that in, If it's something that needs to be said, if it's something that you just need to do personally, or something for someone else, you know that if you feel that it needs to be done, it needs to be done. So take action, as long as it's not to murder someone, because that would be a bad gut feeling. So let's move on to the third card, which is, what is the ancestral role I must play? Everybody loves the ancestor stuff. So what is the ancestral role I must play? Third card. Ooh, Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords. I love this card too. I was just showing that in the last video too. That's so weird. I still have that on here loaded. That's so weird. Okay, so Ace of Swords would be right here. It's the first card, obviously. Ace, as in one. So general meaning: powerful actions and support will defeat a formidable enemy, overcome a complicated or difficulty to achieve a hard-fought victory. Clear intellectual assistance is at hand. A strong woman of authority, an advocate for justice. So this is basically very similar to a smaller version of Ma'at. So that is also in this reading coming up. But it's more of a, it's an insight, but it's more like the beginning, when things are coming into clarity. Whereas Ma'at is basically, it is completely clear. It's not just an intuition. It's already been an intuition, and you know the truth. And Ma'at is also more of just, boldness on the truth, setting the hammer down, putting the sword down, saying this is the truth, and this is what must be in order to achieve justice. And justice would be fairness. It's not what we hear in politics every day, with social justice. Anything justice is fairness. That's all someone is looking for. It doesn't matter what race, what gender, what culture, anything. Justice is justice. There's not two versions of fair. Fair is fair. Unfair is unfair. So this one is the beginning of figuring out some truth needs to come to the light. So now we go to number 4. So number 4 would be, interestingly enough, I just looked down, I knew it was here, but I didn't even realize it was next. Number 4, what must I leave behind in order to move ahead? Very interesting. So, Ma'at, which this is the Justice card, same as the Justice card, but just way cooler, in my opinion, way more awesome. So what this is saying, okay, what must I leave behind in order to move ahead? This could mean many things. It could mean I or you, however you want to look at it. I know from my perspective, sometimes I'm too focused on trying to make things fair. I'm too focused on seeking justice, especially when we see so many times it just doesn't seem to happen. For those like me who see so many biased situations in the law, not just the law, but just in society, in our communities in general, and they're not always evil, intentional biasness. It's not always an evil, intentional bias. Sometimes it's just, we all have a biased way of thinking. In other words, when people are investigating, when police are investigating a serious crime, think about when they're finding suspects. It's hard not to be a little biased. If they say something that seems off, you're like, hey, well, wait a minute. If they look suspicious, if they're moving around a certain way or talking a certain way, which I've done that just because I'm nervous, and a police officer has asked me, why are you nervous? I'm like, well, last time I encountered a police, I got choked and tackled to the ground and charged with resisting arrest, which I didn't do, so it makes me a little nervous. He's like, is there any drugs in the car? I was like, no, feel free to search. No drugs, haven't been drinking. He didn't search. He didn't do anything other than just let me go. But, this goes to show that, obviously he's going to think something. And sometimes we need to not be so worried on about justice as an overall thing, but our own desires. Are we seeking it the right way? You know what I mean? And it goes for everyone, obviously. Okay, now let's go to card 5. Card 5 is, what must I learn from my present situation? Just had this one in the first 2-card reading with the moon. Oh, look at that. The Lord of Cups. I want to make sure I say it right so I don't feel dumb. Lord of Cups. So this is all emotions. So we're back to emotions. But being in control of your emotions, finding balance. The Lord of Cups, like the Lord of Emotions. So the head. You are the head of your emotions. Everyone is individually. So it's being in control. It's not a scattered, brained, emotional type card. So very basic for that card. But let's go on to card 6 down here at the bottom. Card 6 is the 8 of Swords. Interesting card here. The 8 of Swords. Okay, so the 8 of Swords is, I'll do a little description here for you, and then I'm going to come back and do my own intuitive reading here. But for now, the 8 of Swords, misinterpretation. So misinterpretation, hidden agendas, restriction and repression, mishaps and misfortune due to ignorance. So that's a tough one. That's a tough pill to swallow. It's basically just, lack of confidence, being in fantasy more than reality, which fantasy I feel is great, but being too much fantasy and not enough reality is bad. Just the same as being too much reality and not being in any fantasy is boring. That's why we watch, movies that have scenes and ideas that could never happen, but they're interesting. If we didn't have that, we'd be quite bored. If every movie was just realistic, or if every song was just based on an absolutely realistic idea, it would be boring. So our creativeness. But this is more about letting our creativeness lead to misinterpretations. Just, looking at things maybe too deeply. Says here, the seeker needs to view the visions from the depths, from dreams working to decipher their hidden messages. The seeker urges us not to be fooled by false sense of knowing. In other words, too quick to say, oh, this is what this means. People do that with tarot every single reading I watch. Like when I watch so many good tarot readers, but I watch people with their questions. Like, oh, will I have a baby soon? It's like, if the tarot reader told you yes, is that what you would go with? Would you just believe you're gonna have a baby soon? What if the tarot reader said you'll never have a baby, or never have one again? Would that be what you settle with? That's basically what we're looking at with the 8 of Swords. So take time to evaluate what you're thinking with your intuition, especially. Now we're gonna go to number 7. We only have 2 more after this. What is my incarnational role? Incarnational role. So basically, when you think incarnate, so what are we trying to bring to fruition? What are we trying to magically create? When we look at this one, it's very cool that we got this one for that. It is the 3 of Swords. So we got the 3 of Swords. Very cool card for this one. And the 3 of Swords, this will be interesting for drawing that, for that card, or for that specific number. 3 of Swords. We have, it is necessary to move beyond loss. After loss, work towards transformation. A period of separation, isolation, or retreat is needed. So I don't think enough people are told that isolation can be a great thing, and it can also be a horrible thing. It depends on the situation, as it said. A period of separation, isolation, or retreat is needed. Now, opposite of that would be loneliness, desertion, loss of direction, lack of motivation, death of all joys, seeking into depression and hopelessness. So we hear when people say, "Oh, this person was isolated," and that's probably why they went into a depressive state. Well, you don't always go into a depressive state when you're isolated. It depends on what you're isolating from, or for, or how long it goes on, and how the longer it goes on, the less healthy it will be. Isolation for a week or two, okay, maybe even a month, but once it gets up to 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you're really looking at more of agoraphobia. Really, you're just basically gonna be afraid to go outside. So 3 of Swords. So now we are down to, here we are. We're down to, we have 8. How can I best communicate with my inner voice? How can I best communicate with my inner voice? Look at that. 5 of Cups. What a beautiful card for that. 5 of Cups. So the 5 of Cups in this deck would, I'm trying to make this under 20 minutes. 5 of Cups, but I also don't want to hurry, guys. I mean, just doing what I'm doing here. 5 of Cups. It's a great card for that. True understanding arising from inner work, leading to a discovery, a legacy, a trust, or new teacher. So a new person to help guide. Could be me, could be someone completely different. Doesn't really bother me, as long as someone is gaining something from their studies. A message arrives causing great upheaval. The message is true, yet acceptance is difficult. Inheritance, wills, gifts, or losses. So basically what we're looking at here is it's finding a new faith. It says new understanding, a new guru, but it doesn't have to be looked at that. It's giving multiple ideas. Finding a new understanding to something new. For me, what it reminds me, this card now will forever remind me of my just finding my spirituality. My preference in spirituality was very weird for a while, like a couple of years. I ventured into Wicca. Of course, I didn't agree with everything within Wicca. There's so much that people agree with or disagree with. Then I studied just witchcraft, traditional type witchcraft. I didn't necessarily agree with all that as well, because there are a lot of like, oh, you have to do this or have to do that. I'm like, no witches would say you have to do anything. In a coven, there would be rules for the coven, but it wouldn't be the way that it's described. And then I'd get into Buddhism. I love Buddhism, but I don't agree with everything in Buddhism. Hinduism, love Hinduism. Can't agree with everything within Hinduism either. But I find inspiration from each thing as I go. And then in Gnosticism, the Cathars. The Cathars, very inspirational to me, but obviously there's things in there, and we don't know what all is true when we're looking back at witchcraft and Gnosticism. A lot of things are going to be thrown in there that are probably just stereotypical, but obviously I don't agree with everything within the Cathar beliefs, and a lot of people don't even believe that they existed. I believe that someone like them definitely existed, because we know that today in religion, a lot of people don't want us heretics around, so it makes sense that something likely happened back in them days. So now look what we're down to. We are down to, we have 2 left because we still have our number 1 card. So this is number 9, but it won't be the last one, so we gotta go back to number 1. Number 9 is, what is the key to unlocking my present potential? And look at that. The 3 of Wands. 3 of Wands. That is awesome to get the 3 of Wands on this. Reason is, we're still not into the last one, but the reason that it's awesome to get the 3 of Wands is just because for 1 to number 3, I mean, everyone loves number 3, right? And we'll see why here. It doesn't matter what deck you have. number 3 is always going to be great. So, daring enterprise shall yield productive results. So, being courageous, daring, shall yield productive results. Healthy pruning may be advisable, looking to the importance of each tree instead of the forest as a whole, paying attention to each detail down the path. The impulse to run in one direction may not see the journey completed as expected. So, cooperation and partnerships. So, we're looking at it has the 2 people in the card. You can bring that back up. So the 2 people, the smaller people, coming up to the tall magician type guru, and they have traveled through the forest, paying attention to every detail. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz in a weird way. You know, they're coming to finally meet the Wizard of Oz, and they realize that, hey, I'm good the way I am. I have a heart. Maybe I thought I didn't, but I do. Oh, I thought I was dumb, but I'm not. Now I realize I'm not. Oh, I thought I needed all these things to feel like a real existing part of this world, but I already am. I was just deceiving myself. So 3 of Wands is really, teaming up with people who want to reveal the same thing. But as we see here, you're going to go through many different, maybe disturbing even, thoughts, ideas, different phases. It would be important to travel the path without getting caught up in the past or too caught up with what's ahead, and rather absorb and embrace each moment as it comes in the present. That's how I would view that. Now the last card. We are at 22 minutes. Last card. We have, what is my most powerful gift? And this is awesome. The Priestess of Dreams. So the Priestess of Dreams. Oh, that's just so awesome. It's the number, like, not highest. It's the beginning. Priestess of Dreams, the beginning. So right as you're going, okay, you are traveling this new path. You have a new spirituality, and as we all know, the major arcana ends with the world. And if we go back to the beginning, we will see that we go from the Fool, or in this deck, the Innocent, and then we go to the Magician, and then what is after the Magician? The Priestess of Dreams. I'm sorry. So ironically, it's that 3rd stage. It's the 3rd stage of, you start out innocent, Fool, almost as baby-like, childlike. You start to study, and as you're studying, you feel like a magician. You're coming up with your own ideas. You got all these mysteries you're discovering. You're like, wow, it's just crazy. You're seeking so much. And then the Priestess of Dreams. So purity, virginity, someone untouched. This is a person apart from the ordinary, quietly present, yet manifests as light in darkness. Without seeking attention, they draw those who sense the quiet purity. The appearance of this card may represent great work, study, and knowledge. It may point to a period of inner silence, solitude, and faith. It can refer to an individual, possibly the seeker, who is completely devoted to the sacred path of wisdom. So basically what that is saying is, when you get to that 3rd phase, which I believe every tarot card is a phase, and we can go through it multiple times, from the Fool to the end, to the world, and start over as a fool again, because we all have times where we're like, wow, I didn't think I'd ever be this foolish again. You think of yourself starting over. So the Priestess of Dreams, which I'd also like to point out that, let me get here real quick just to make sure you guys understand. So the Priestess of Dreams is, you probably could have guessed, but it's the High Priestess. So you got the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess, and in this deck it is the Innocent, the Master of Secrets, and the Priestess of Dreams. So they're just named differently, which I love about this deck. But the Priestess is, you're at that third phase, and you're finally finding pieces that fit. You're finding that this is your path, regardless of what your path is. You may say, well, my path is just agnostic. I don't have a spiritual path. That's fine. That's your path. And it's still spiritual because in your mind, you desire things in the future. In other words, even if you wanted a car, you know in your mind you're thinking, how can I do this? How can I make this happen? That is magic. That is very much magic, and not enough people discuss that. Magic is an idea in your head that you are going to continue to just rattle thoughts around that same idea until you come up with a plan to manifest this idea into a reality, into a final goal, to have that car. And then you can look back and go, wow, I did this. I planned this out. I made this happen. That is magic. Magic isn't just throwing some herbs and lighting some candles and throwing a piece of paper in a pot. That is to inspire yourself to follow that goal, that driven goal, to keep your mind focused on pursuing that. It doesn't just happen because you did that a certain way, or curse someone because you did this or that and mixed this with this. It doesn't happen that way. No one can curse me. You can try all you want. I can't curse anyone. You can't curse anyone. You could believe you did, like people who go and do a curse on someone, and then the next day, sometimes even more ironically, or within the next week, they get in a car crash or they wreck their bicycle. They're like, oh, that must have been my curse. Our mind makes us believe that because we know we had already done that curse. If you hadn't have done that curse, you'd never think anything of it other than an accident. If you were putting a spell for someone to heal and they came back, oh, I'm healed. Well, they could have healed anyway, but since you put the spell, see how it has that double whammy effect. They believe the spell worked. You believe your spell worked for them. It's still inspiring, but we shouldn't lean on that. That's where we want to make sure, like with the three of swords, or three of wands, I'm sorry, that we are focusing on reality as much as fantasy, balancing it. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. It's really cool that we were able to end on the Priestess of Dreams. I hope everybody has a great end to the week, and blessed be, and hail Satan. And if you're not comfortable with that, I apologize, but I promise I don't curse. If I was to curse, I must have cursed myself, because I go through problems as much as I try to help others with theirs. So I'm no divine special entity. I'm just a human being. So have a great week. Thank you for watching.